Well, it happened again. I got another project that followed me home. But that's alright. So, today I'm going to do a video on my 1970 Sears SS12. Right beside it is my 69 SS12. I'll show you the differences between the two. I believe this is a 70. I'm not 100% sure. I think 70 and 71 were pretty similar. 69 had a couple things I'll show you that made it a little bit different. But anyway, this thing's been sitting for the better part of a decade. A guy I used to work for called me up and said he had this thing. It had been in the family for a while, but through time and sitting and some other variables I won't get into, I don't have a whole lot of battery life. Essentially, they were giving this thing away for the great price of nothing. I couldn't refuse, so here it is. So anyway, I was going to use this thing for parts for the other one. But, you know, I felt bad for it, and I was like, you know, I just can't go ripping up something and not at least give it a chance to perform. So, I've done the absolute minimum amount of work here today. I got a battery shoved in there. I got a fuel tank kind of rigged up. If it starts, it starts. If it doesn't, oh well. One thing I want to talk about on these, it's pretty much the same for all these Sears. They've got, and this is the problem with these things, they've got what's called a solid state ignition. Essentially, that's a big fancy word for part you can't get anymore. They quit making the solid states, and all it really is, it's sort of like a magneto or a magnetic pickup underneath the flywheel that then goes to a coil that then goes to the spark plug. It's kind of just this one big unit instead of a nice clean little, you know, like most Briggs and stuff, they've got the little magneto that sits above the flywheel. This thing's a little more convoluted. Essentially, when it breaks, you're effed completely. You can get them, but when you do get them, they're going to be off of eBay or some other site, and they're going to be just as old as the motor you're working for, and to make matters even better, the person selling it is going to want $200 and $300 for a part that's like 40 years old. So your one option is you can go into an HEI, which I'm going to do a video on that. I actually wound up doing that for this tractor. It's got an HEI setup in it. It no longer uses the solid state. But yeah, minor differences between these things. This one, the running board is a little bit shorter on your 69. They're a little bit longer style that kind of meet the fender. This one kind of falls short of meeting the fender. The hoods are a little different. This one's got kind of a notched out effect. That one's kind of got more of like a streamlined effect. What else? That's pretty much it. I mean, they're essentially, you know, they're the same frame, they're the same everything. Grills are the same in the front. That one, or this one, says SS, you can hardly see it, it's so faded out, but it says SS12. On these, I don't know if it's true for all of them or not, but this one, it just says Suburban 12. So, yeah, I'm going to put you guys down here. We'll feed her some fuel, and we'll see what happens. Well, this will be a true test. If this works, it'll be absolutely amazing. This thing's got a vacuum pressure pump thingamajig attached to the carburetor. I'm guessing if it doesn't want to start, that might be the problem, but we'll try it. Neutral. Uh-oh. Alright, so our first go at this was a total and complete failure. I think what I'm going to blame, though, before I blame the carburetor, this is a like a vacuum pump for the fuel or whatever. I'm going to assume the diaphragms in this are probably shot just from time alone sitting, not to mention whatever kind of fuel's been sitting with it. We're going to assume that's junk. So instead of doing the pump setup, I'm going to make it like the other one. I got a little air fitting here that'll thread into this, and we're just going to run fuel straight into this carburetor, gravity feed it, no big deal. Other problem I noticed once I took it off, I'm sure you can see it, there's another hole here in the carburetor. I'm sure that was affecting the vacuum a little, and although it completely makes no sense, I've got a little Zerk fitting like you'd put on something you want to grease that just does want to thread in there. I think I've got a tap in the shop I'll kind of tap that in there. If you want optimal carburetor performance, I'm telling you folks, grease these things at least every 3.5 hours. Got to keep them greased. Alright, so we're going to try this again. We've got our air fitting in. We've got our grease fitting installed. We are properly greased. We are ready to go, or so we think. Turn the gas on. Wonder if it's don't see it leaking or anything. I can hear the float. When I had it off, I could hear the float bouncing around. I didn't really give it any throttle last time either. Let's try like half throttle and half choke, right in the middle. Try all choke. Not looking good. Try nothing. Alright, well, luckily there's not a whole lot to these carburetors. See if we can crack this bowl open, see what's going on inside of it. There's a little bit of crud hiding in there. Well, I've got it, let me see here. Float pin's not stuck. See if I can get this float off and figure out, is it a floating float or a non-floating float? Got a little bit, got some kind of spring thing in here. Pin doesn't look too bad. Whole thing actually doesn't look too bad. See if I can run my pickup in there. Oh, there's a bad sign. I don't know if you can hear that, but we've got fuel. Fuel is getting in the float. So, although I think doesn't sound like very much. This float is probably still working right now, but it's going to quit for us the longer it sits. I can't think. She should have started. So anyway, I forgot to mention earlier, I did check the solid state. She still is making spark. So that side is good. Why this thing didn't start, I don't know. It should have popped to life for us. I'm going to assume maybe when I broke this apart, maybe something kind of broke free or something, I don't know. I'll kind of wash her out a little bit and I'll try this again. But yeah, float is on the way out. So, this almost never happens, but in an absolute twist of fate, somewhere throughout my years of collecting odd and end automotive parts, I was going through some of my stuff, and what do you know, I still have an in the box from Tecumseh themselves, a brand new float. We'll put it in there, see what happens. Alright, so we got our carburetor back together, we got our new float in. When I put this thing back together, there's this little tiny spring thing that was in there. It's not the pin that holds the float to the, holds the pin to the float, but it was like some kind of spring thing that was in there around the float pin to either help it stay up or stay down or something, I don't know. Either way, I'm going to try it without it. Most carburetors that I've done don't have this. I've never seen this before. So between the new float and the removal of this, we might have something this time. We've got our new carburetor on. We've got gas. We've got spark. We've got everything we need, I think. So, I'm going to try half throttle. Oh, shit. Didn't hook the choke up. Hold on. Alright. Well, there's something. Alright, she likes full choke. Let's try half throttle full choke. Let's try a little less choke. Getting closer. Let's try no choke. Not bad. Alright, let's try it again. Not bad for a carburetor with a grease fitting stuck in it. Let's see if she feels like moving and cutting grass. Alright. Start off slow. 1. We'll go 1 high range. Uh-oh. Oh. There we go, maybe. There we go. Let's try some speed. Deck down. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's weird. Let's see what she thinks about running these blades. She says, "What do you think you're doing?" Try it again. I can hardly believe it. Doesn't even need an operator. Well, I think that'll just about do it for this video.